If you're a leader, you've probably heard the old saying, right? A happy employee is a productive employee. But what if that's a dangerous myth? What if our entire approach to team engagement is, well, completely backwards?
That's the core idea we're going to unpack today. See, happy employees aren't the starting point for a great company, they're the result. Happiness isn't some input you pour into the system. Nope, it's the outcome of a well-designed environment and, you guessed it, effective leadership.
So where does this all come from? Well, it's rooted in the work of the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Now, he spent decades asking one really deep question: what makes human beings truly flourish? And trust me, his answer changes everything.
And what he found pretty much shatters a lot of our modern illusions. He discovered that once our basic needs are met, more money doesn't really make us any happier. What really transforms the human experience is a psychological state he called flow.
And that brings us right to the heart of it all. What exactly is this state of flow? And, more importantly for you, how does it apply directly to your leadership and your team's performance?
You know that magical feeling of being in the zone? That's flow. Think about a musician just lost in a song, or an athlete perfectly in sync with the game. Time just disappears. It's this state of total immersion that happens when a high challenge meets a high skill. It's not boring, it's not stressful. It's that sweet spot where peak performance and deep satisfaction are born.
Okay, so what's really interesting here is figuring out what stops flow from happening at work. And the number one obstacle, the biggest blind spot for most leaders, is a fundamental lack of clarity.
I mean, think about it. How many times have you or another leader you know had this thought, I need to hire someone, but then the thought just stops there? The critical questions that should come next often get missed entirely. What problem is this person solving? What responsibilities are they actually taking on? And how will I know if they're succeeding?
This really shows the difference perfectly. On the left, you have this fuzzy, undefined thought and expectation. It's vague. But on the right, you see a clear target with defined tasks, a deliverable. And here's the key takeaway for any leader. When you hire for a vague expectation, you get confusion and frustration. But when you hire for a clear deliverable, you get results. Simple as that.
So the fundamental shift is this. Mature, effective leadership doesn't start by thinking about who to hire. It starts by defining what needs to be delivered. That clarity, that's the foundation for everything else.
All right, so we've diagnosed the problem, a lack of clarity. Now let's get to the solution and see how this all turns into a practical framework for creating real engagement and, yes, flow. This matrix right here, this is your new diagnostic tool. Let's walk through it together. Look at the top left. When you give a high-skill person a low-challenge task, you get boredom. Now look at the bottom right. A high challenge with low skill creates anxiety. And in the bottom left, low skill and low challenge, that just leads to apathy, total disengagement. As a leader, your entire job is to design roles that live in that top right quadrant, flow. And this is exactly why so many motivational speeches and team-building events just fall flat. People don't disengage because they lack motivation, they disengage because they're misaligned. Your job as a leader isn't to be a cheerleader, it's to be an architect, someone who aligns talent with the right challenges.
So how do you get that alignment? It happens by balancing this simple, healthy triad. First, you need total clarity on what the company needs delivered. Second, a clear understanding of what the person can offer. And third, what the organization gives back in return. Autonomy, growth, compensation. A leader's job is to keep these three things in balance. And when you get this right, this is what a well-positioned employee looks like. They have clarity, they have purpose, and they feel a sense of progress. This doesn't happen by accident. It's the direct result of a leader who decided to design the structure first and then find the right people for it. The order of operations here is everything.
Okay, we've covered the theory. Now it's time to make this real. Let's apply this framework directly to your team with 3 powerful, reflective questions.
First question, and be honest with yourself. Can you, right now, articulate the specific, non-negotiable deliverable for every single person on your team? Not their job title, but their core contribution. If you can't, that's where your work begins.
Next, think back to that 2x2 matrix. Who on your team is stuck in the boredom quadrant, way too skilled for their current tasks? And who's over in the anxiety quadrant, drowning in challenges they just aren't ready for? Misalignment is a performance killer.
And finally, the most powerful question of all. Where are you, as the leader, allowing apathy to exist? That bottom left quadrant, the one with low skill and low challenge,
that's a culture killer. Just identifying it is the first step to fixing it.
Because in the end, this is the goal. Great companies aren't built on happy accidents. They are architected with intention. When you, as a leader, create an environment where challenge perfectly meets skill, work stops being a burden and it becomes a form of expression. And that is where you find true sustainable happiness at work.
So, if this framework resonated with you, I really encourage you to continue your leadership journey. You can find more great insights by connecting with Richard Manich on LinkedIn or by checking out his website. Go ahead and start building the structure for your team's success today.